I am not singing of the dust. No. That envelops travelers on a summer day, nor of those endless muds they may get stuck in on a July day. No. That would be to sing of the government or of its engineers, who take pleasure in removing whatever dirt is on the road during times of good weather, or in hauling it away by cartloads, so that it will make plenty of mud in the winter. Each crazy man with his own subject. I respect that of our guardians or tutors, and that is why I must also respect their science of repairing roads and of building railroads, although the cost does not come out of their pockets, but from the little bundles the poor man makes at the end of a shabby handkerchief to have the means for paying tolls, barrier fees, and excises. My song is not in B-flat, as if that were necessary to express the anguish of the sad traveler who has to let himself tumble down those slopes, damaging the battered carts, yet enjoying the full independence of movement allowed by the law, to travel as they please on the roads. Rage who may rage. My song is less serious, less sad, for I temper and modulate my rebec, medieval musical instrument, to remind all those who have traversed the aforementioned road to Valparaiso of something that all have seen, upon which all have fixed their attention, about which all have ruminated in their own way for a moment, and which all have forgotten until they see it again. That thing is an indefinable man who walks and always walks on foot along the side of the road, whether it is sunny or pouring rain, whether he may be covered in mud or dust. He always walks with a steady and sure gait, without looking around him, without turning his eyes anywhere. He keeps his head bent as if absorbed in a terrible thought. His complexion is white, like that of the inhabitants of northern Europe, and his straight gray hairs descend and blend with a white beard, in which the golden glimmer of hair that was once blonde can still be seen. His tall stature is somewhat concealed by a slight lean forward, and by a blanket he carries slung over his shoulder. The long and aged poncho that covers him sometimes reveals the tails of a coat, the last reminder of a lost condition. Who is that man? Every passenger who meets him or catches up with him asks himself, and if the question is sometimes directed at the coachman or postilion, the questioner may notice that the postilion or coachman may shrink back a little, smile as if in fear, and add, "I don't know." Or, if he is more direct, may say that he is an Englishman who is often seen walking on the road, never stopping anywhere, and that as soon as he reaches Santiago, he returns again to Valparaiso, and in this city, he enters, taking in the beach, and immediately leaves without anyone knowing where he is going. Occasionally, a traveler may have an opportunity to speak a word to that strange man. Then he will see a peaceful face that smiles and blue eyes that gaze sweetly, but he may not understand the brief words spoken by the pilgrim without slowing his quick and firm pace. If someone is generous enough to hand him a coin, the pilgrim extends his hand and receives it without changing his attitude. And, if the one who practiced that generosity could observe the pilgrim later, he might see him arrive at a ranch along the road, entertain the dogs, caress the children, and give the coin he had just received to one of the poor inhabitants of the hut, then continue on his way with the same firm and certain step that had brought him there. But let it be said in truth, there are no people less observant or more indifferent than those who traverse that road. If the passerby is Chilean, it is already known that he should not be given anything at all, that he looks without seeing what he is encountering, and that if he sees what he is looking at, not a single observation or thought arises in his dull spirit. Nor is he more observant if he is a foreigner. The Englishman goes on scorning everything and absorbed in the business that motivates his journey. The Yankee goes on tearing the carriage to pieces with his razor, and observing the region, he imagines what would become of the squatters if Chile were to annex itself to the stars. The Frenchman goes on like a chatterbox and raises his elbow every moment to kiss his bottle. The German goes on criticizing whatever he sees. The Spaniard, telling Andalusian stories or praising his peninsula, and the Italian goes on singing or talking out of his mouth and nose about the independence of Italy. Thus the pilgrim generally makes his path as though through a desert, and he is so sure of this that he often laughs to himself and talks to the spirits, without concern for the passers-by. He is the lord of the road. He is there as if at home, and converses with the goblins who assist him as if he were not visible to the public. But he has not escaped my curiosity, for although I belong to the most honorable of those nationalities, and I have much of their characteristic indolence, I also possess enough stubbornness to boast that none have escaped me. And it was not possible for the perpetual traveler to escape my curiosity. Thus it happened that while I was passing through Casablanca, and stopped at the door of the inn of Mr. Eduardo, as the coachmen call it, admiring with all the strength of my spirit the unfathomable mud quagmires on the streets of that town on a winter's day, the pilgrim passed by with his head bowed and thoughtful, his pace calm and sure, as if he were treading on a marble pavement. My first glance fell squarely upon his nose, which was handsome enough to win my favor, and then I reviewed the vast bulk of his body, thinking I recognized the very man who had so interested me once upon a time at the Eagle Inn. I wanted to call him by name, but something mysterious must have occurred in my mind at that moment, because I felt speechless, and, above all, I believed myself drawn to follow the pilgrim's steps as if by an irresistible force. I gave my guide the appropriate order that, if he did not find me again, he would deliver my luggage to Santiago, and I headed toward that city on foot, following the traveler at some distance. As I left the outskirts of the town, of which I was made aware, not by the lack of roofs, but because the mud was lessening, I quickened my pace and, reaching a convenient distance from my pursuer, I exclaimed, "Mr. William, say a word to me." The traveler stopped, and, turning to me kindly, said, "I too have recognized you, even though I have only seen you once at the Eagle Inn. What do you want?" "To travel with you for a long, very long conversation, because I am dying of desire to be your friend." "And to know my story, is that not so?" The pilgrim interrupted me, smiling. I could not deny that. I confessed my interest, my curiosity, and begged him to open his heart to me as if to a friend. He set many conditions, demanded many tests of loyalty, and asked many questions to understand my character. But even so, we walked together, and it took us 3 days to reach the capital city. 3 days during which I saw and heard the most astonishing things I have ever seen or heard. 3 days during which Mr. Livingston transformed himself 100 times. 3 days, in short, during which I also in my turn metamorphosed at each step taken by my companion and remained invisible to all the world, even to my coachman, who, although searching for me, passed by and did no see me, leaving me abandoned on the road. Now that I have become human again and have recovered my faculties, I am going to tell what I heard and saw, in case there are curious people, like myself, who wish to know the fate of that mysterious man, or in case there are those who wish to read wonderful things without harming anyone and without danger.